In the burning belly of Lagos, where engines coughed smoke and dreams danced with dust, there stood a concrete giant called Obinna Industries. Its walls stretched like ambition itself, tall, proud, and untouchable. People passed the gate daily without looking back, their minds glued to salaries, supervisors, and time cards. But within those walls, something invisible had begun to rot, and one man, far away in Sydney, had sensed it. Chief Francis Obinna, the founder, had once been the thunder behind those walls, but age and failing lungs had sent him to Australia. Distance sharpened his instincts. Whispers floated across continents. The company's spirit had shifted. Smiles had become masks. Power had grown arrogant. And so, one morning, through the hospital's dim corridor, he made a call. Chidi Obinna was not lounging on a beach when the call came. He was sleepless, building business models on his laptop, trying to make his late-night noodles feel like real dinner. His father's voice carried not just love, but burden. "Come home," it said. "But come as no one. I want you to see the truth not as a prince, but as a ghost." So Chidi came. Not in a suit. Not in a tinted car. But in a public bus, his back sticking to torn leather seats, his eyes wide with the fear and curiosity of a returning stranger. He wore a faded green uniform. He called himself Emeka. And he stood at the company gate, saluting cars he once rode in. His first day felt like punishment wrapped in purpose. The sun was not gentle. It clawed at his skin. Buses honked without mercy. And the guards, real guards, looked at him with cautious eyes. They didn't know he was a graduate. They didn't know his last name could unlock every door here. All they saw was a new hire. One of them. Disposable. The compound pulsed with a rhythm Chidi had only read about. Secretaries with bouncing heels and clipped voices. Engineers dragging toolboxes and tired hopes. Managers backing orders like war generals. And the janitors, always in motion, like ghosts with brooms. Chidi watched it all, not with judgment, but with the hunger of a man digging for something buried. On his third day, a manager tossed him a parking slip and called him useless. The slip landed in his face. He didn't flinch. Just picked it up and smiled faintly, as if collecting data. Another time, someone accused him of stealing meat from a colleague's jollof rice. A lie, but lies had power here. He almost got suspended. He kept a notebook hidden beneath his mattress in the tiny staff quarters. Each night, he wrote down names. Not of who insulted him, but how they treated him when they thought he was nothing. The ones who shared sachet water during the noon heat. The ones who made space for him beneath the leaking corridor roof when the rain arrived like war drums. The ones who ignored him. And the ones who laughed. There was one old cleaner, a woman with grey braids and crooked shoes, who called him Pikin and always gave him the softer chair in the shade. Her kindness didn't come with flattery. It came with silence, and in that silence, Chidi felt the weight of truth, the kind his father wanted him to witness. Time passed slowly but thought fast. He heard things. About inflated contracts. About HR favoritism. About the fear that paralyzed honest staff while rewarding the loudest liars. He watched a supervisor punish a factory worker for taking a sick break, the same supervisor who left early every Friday for golf. Chidi didn't intervene. Not yet. He was still Emeka. Still invisible. The night before everything changed, he stood by the gate and stared at the towering glass windows of the boardroom. They glowed like judgment eyes in the dark. Behind those windows, decisions were made that shaped families. Salaries. Layoffs. Futures. He wondered how many people inside those rooms remembered what it felt like to be at the bottom. The letter came like a whisper with teeth. An emergency board meeting. No details. Just murmurs. "The sun is coming," someone said in the lunchroom. "Big boy from Australia," another laughed. Even the security guard joked. "Hope he's not too oilable for our pepper soup." That morning, Chidi didn't change clothes. He wore his green gate uniform. The one stained with sand, with sweat in the armpits, and dust on the cuffs. The one that had heard every insult, every silence. As he walked into the air-conditioned boardroom, his shoes echoed against marble floors. Heads turned. Then laughter. Wrong room, someone said. But then the giant screen on the wall flickered to life. Chief Francis appeared, his face aged but unbending. The room fell quiet. And what he said next did not just silence them, it shattered the lies they lived by. The voice from the screen spoke not with anger, but with gravity, the kind that sinks into bones and unmasks illusions. Chief Francis Obinna, miles away in a Sydney hospital bed, addressed them not as a father but as a founder. His words uncoiled slowly, each one a verdict. "You've worked with my son this past month," the chief said. "But you didn't know?" He wore green. He stood at the gate. He swept your compound. And in that uniform, he saw who you really are. There was a cold stillness, like the hush before a courtroom sentence. Nobody breathed. "Ladies and gentlemen," the chief continued, "I present to you your new CEO. He has been with you all month, wearing green and guarding the gate." Gasps filled the room like water rushing into a broken hall. All eyes turned to Chidi, still dressed in his gatekeeper's uniform. He removed his cap slowly, as if peeling off the final mask. His eyes scanned the faces, some red with shame, others pale with disbelief. The same lips that once backed others now trembled. The ones who ignored his greetings could barely look him in the eye. Chidi said nothing. But his silence roared louder than 1,000 speeches. By the time he left that room, the boardroom table felt smaller. Titles didn't shield anyone anymore. The walls had heard truth. And truth didn't live quietly. The next morning, Chidi arrived at the company dressed in a navy suit. Not expensive. Not flashy. But purposeful. His walk was slower now, not because of power, but because of clarity. Every face that greeted him came with nervousness. The guard saluted too sharply. The secretaries fumbled with files. Managers straightened their backs like guilty schoolboys. He didn't punish anyone. At least, not yet. Instead, he observed them again, this time from the top floor. He watched how people behaved when they knew they were being watched. It was different now. More polite. More careful. But it was not transformation, only fear. So he did something no one expected. Chidi returned to the quarters that night, to the room where his tin mattress lay on bare cement. He opened his notebook and began listing again. But this time, not names, questions. What kind of culture crushes the kind and promotes the cruel? Why did dignity cost more than corruption? And how could a company be saved without breaking its soul? The next few weeks were filled with movement. Not of papers, but of people. He called for anonymous reviews from every department. Cleaners, drivers, cooks, mechanics, all invited. No names. Just truth. Some wept as they wrote. Some laughed bitterly. But by the end of that week, he had 1,000 handwritten windows into the company's heart. And what he saw broke him. A widowed secretary had been passed over for promotion 5 times because she wasn't social enough. A junior engineer's design had been stolen by his superior and submitted as his own. A kitchen staff had been sexually harassed but feared speaking because the manager had friends in HR. And then there were the little things, ignored birthdays, broken chairs, a lack of sanitary pads in the women's restrooms. Small things that said, "You're not seen. You don't matter." Chidi felt a rage he couldn't express. But rage wasn't enough. He needed structure. So he created one. He assembled a new department, not of executives, but of truth-tellers. A rotating committee of randomly selected employees who would meet monthly and send private reports to his desk. A rotating seat of accountability. No titles. No ties. Just eyes on the ground. But some didn't like the changes. Whispers began. That he was too soft. That he was playing to the gallery. That the old man was still pulling strings. One senior executive even said behind his back, he's just a glorified gate man in a suit. When the words reached Chidi, he didn't respond. He just reassigned the man, not fired, but demoted, quietly. Back to the field, where he could remember what humility felt like. The executive resigned the following week. But the war wasn't over. It was just shifting. Productivity dipped slightly. Not because people worked less, but because many were frozen in fear. Fear of being watched. Fear of being exposed. Chidi saw it in their eyes, the paralysis of self-protection. So he did something radical. He invited every department, from janitors to logistics, to a company-wide retreat. Not in some fancy hotel, but in a training camp outside Lagos, where they would cook together, clean together, sleep in dorms, and learn each other's stories. For 5 days, the company became a village. Supervisors scrubbed toilets. Managers queued for meals. Drivers taught time management. Cleaners shared stories of resilience. The walls between us and them crumbled. And on the final night, under the stars, Chidi stood barefoot on the grass and told them the whole story. How he had returned as Emeka. What he saw. What he felt. What broke him. And what healed him. By the time he finished, many were crying, not because of guilt, but because of recognition. They had seen themselves in his words. Not just their wrongs, but their possibilities.